Hello and welcome back. I'm glad you found your way here again tonight. Tonight, instead of drifting outward toward distant planets or ancient civilizations, we're going to turn quietly inward towards something far closer than any star, and yet in many ways just as mysterious: the human brain, the very organ that's slowly settling down right now as you listen, preparing itself for sleep. We'll wander gently through memory, dreams, emotion, and the soft, complicated architecture of the mind. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing to Drowsy with Facts, where every episode is 100 gentle facts, softly narrated, designed to carry you all the way to sleep. For now, let's begin. It's worth starting with scale because the brain's scale is deceptive. It weighs, on average, only about 3 pounds, roughly the weight of a small melon. And yet within that modest weight sits somewhere around 86 billion neurons, each one a tiny cell capable of receiving, processing, and transmitting information. Each of these neurons can form thousands of connections with other neurons through structures called synapses. And the total number of these connections throughout the brain is estimated to be somewhere in the range of 100 trillion. It's a number so large that if you try to count each connection individually, one per second, it would take you more than 3 million years to finish. The brain communicates with itself and with the rest of the body through a combination of electrical and chemical signals. When a neuron is activated, it fires a brief electrical impulse along its length, and when that impulse reaches the end of the cell, it triggers the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters, which cross the tiny gap of the synapse and bind to the next neuron, either encouraging or discouraging that neuron from firing in turn. This entire process happens astonishingly fast. Some neural signals travel at speeds approaching 250 miles per hour, allowing you to react to a sudden sound or a hot surface almost instantaneously, long before you're consciously aware of having made any decision at all. Different neurotransmitters play different roles throughout this vast signaling network. Dopamine, often associated with motivation and reward, is released when you accomplish a goal or experience something pleasurable, reinforcing the behaviors that led to that feeling in the first place. Serotonin plays a significant role in regulating mood, appetite, and sleep, and many common approaches to supporting mental health work, at least in part, by influencing how serotonin is used within the brain. Oxytocin, sometimes informally called the bonding hormone, is released during moments of physical closeness and social connection, encouraging trust and attachment between people. And then there's melatonin, produced by a small structure called the pineal gland, which rises in the evening as darkness falls, quietly signaling to your body that it's time to begin winding down towards sleep. Quite possibly rising in your own brain right now as you listen to this in the dark. The brain itself isn't one uniform structure, but rather a collection of specialized regions, each contributing something different to the overall experience of being a thinking, feeling person. The cerebrum, the largest part of the brain, is divided into 2 hemispheres, left and right, connected by a thick band of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum, which allows the 2 sides to communicate and share information constantly. For a long time, popular culture embraced the idea that people are either strongly left-brained, meaning logical and analytical, or right-brained, meaning creative and intuitive. But modern neuroscience has found this to be an oversimplification. In reality, most cognitive tasks, whether they involve language, art, or mathematics, draw on networks spread across both hemispheres working together rather than being neatly confined to just one side. Each hemisphere of the cerebrum is further divided into 4 lobes, each associated with different functions. The frontal lobe, located at the front of the brain, is heavily involved in decision-making, planning, personality, and impulse control, and it's also one of the last regions of the brain to fully mature, often not reaching full development until a person's mid-20s. The parietal lobe, situated toward the top and back of the brain, helps process sensory information like touch, temperature, and spatial awareness. The temporal lobe, tucked along the sides of the brain near the ears, plays a central role in processing sound and language, and it's also closely tied to memory formation. And the occipital lobe, at the very back of the brain, is dedicated almost entirely to processing visual information, taking the raw signals arriving from your eyes and transforming them into the coherent, 3-dimensional world you perceive around you. Deeper within the brain, beneath the folded surface of the cerebrum, lie a number of smaller structures that quietly govern some of our most fundamental experiences. The hippocampus, a small curved structure named for its resemblance to a seahorse, plays an essential role in forming new memories and in spatial navigation. Remarkably, the hippocampus is one of the few regions of the adult brain capable of generating entirely new neurons throughout life, a process called neurogenesis. Though this ability appears to slow considerably as people age, nearby sits the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure closely tied to processing emotions, particularly fear and threat detection. It's the amygdala that triggers that sudden jolt of alarm when you hear an unexpected noise in the dark, activating your body's stress response before your more deliberate, thoughtful frontal lobe has even had a chance to fully assess the situation. The brain's need for energy is remarkably high, given its modest size. Although it accounts for only about 2% of an adult's total body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of the body's total energy, even while you're resting quietly or asleep. This means the brain requires a constant, steady supply of oxygen and glucose delivered through the bloodstream, and even brief interruptions to that supply, lasting just a few minutes, can begin causing damage to sensitive neural tissue. It's a quiet, constant demand, humming along in the background of every moment of your life. Whether you're solving a difficult problem or simply lying still, listening to a calm voice guide you towards sleep. Sleep itself, unsurprisingly, plays an enormous role in maintaining a healthy, well-functioning brain, and it's far more active a process than it might appear from the outside. Throughout the night, the brain cycles through different stages of sleep, including lighter stages, deep slow-wave sleep, and REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement, during which most vivid dreaming occurs. During REM sleep, brain activity can actually resemble that of being awake in certain ways, even though the body remains almost entirely paralyzed, a state called REM atonia, which likely exists to prevent us from physically acting out our dreams while our minds wander through them. Sleep also appears to play a crucial role in memory consolidation, the process by which short-term memories formed during the day are gradually strengthened and transferred into longer-term storage. Researchers have found that adequate sleep, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep, significantly improves a person's ability to retain new information learned earlier that same day, essentially giving the brain quiet, uninterrupted time to sort through, organize, and reinforce what it's recently encountered. There's also growing evidence that sleep serves an important cleaning function for the brain through a recently discovered system called the glymphatic system, which becomes considerably more active during sleep, helping to flush out metabolic waste products, including certain proteins associated with neurodegenerative conditions that tend to accumulate in the brain during waking hours. Dreams themselves remain one of the more fascinating and still incompletely understood aspects of brain function. While the exact purpose of dreaming continues to be debated among researchers, several compelling theories have emerged over the years. Some researchers propose that dreaming helps the brain process and regulate emotions, offering a kind of safe, internal space to work through difficult feelings or experiences without the immediate consequences of waking life. Others suggest that dreams play a role in problem solving and creativity, allowing the brain to form unusual, novel connections between ideas that might not occur during more structured, wakeful thinking. Still others point to evidence that dreaming may help simulate and rehearse potential future scenarios, particularly ones involving perceived threats, in a way that could have offered a subtle evolutionary advantage to our ancestors. Memory, more broadly, is not a single, unified process, but rather a collection of distinct systems working together. Short-term memory, sometimes called working memory, allows you to hold a small amount of information in mind for a brief period, such as remembering a phone number just long enough to dial it. Long-term memory, by contrast, can store information for years or even an entire lifetime, and it's generally divided into two broad categories: explicit memory, which includes facts and personal experiences you can consciously recall, and implicit memory, which includes skills and habits like riding a bicycle that you can perform without consciously thinking through each individual step. It's worth noting, gently, that human memory is far less like a video recording than most people intuitively assume. Each time a memory is recalled, it can actually be subtly altered or reconstructed, influenced by current emotions, new information, or even suggestions from other people, a phenomenon researchers have studied extensively through what's known as the misinformation effect. This is part of why eyewitness testimony, despite feeling vivid and certain to the person recalling it, has been shown in numerous studies to be surprisingly unreliable, since the very act of remembering can quietly reshape the memory itself, even without any conscious intention to do so. The brain is also remarkably adaptable, a quality researchers describe using the term neuroplasticity. Rather than being a fixed, unchanging structure once adulthood is reached, the brain continues reorganizing itself throughout life in response to new experiences, learning, and even injury. This adaptability was famously demonstrated in a study of London taxi drivers who were required to memorize an enormously complex map of the city's streets before earning their license. Researchers found that experienced taxi drivers had a noticeably larger hippocampus, the brain region associated with the spatial memory, compared to non-drivers, and that this difference appeared to grow the longer someone had been driving, offering a striking, real-world example of how sustained mental effort can physically reshape the brain's own structure over time. Emotions too arise from complex networks distributed throughout the brain, rather than any single isolated region. While the amygdala plays a significant role in processing fear and threat, emotions more broadly involve coordinated activity across multiple brain areas, including regions responsible for regulating bodily responses, like heart rate and breathing, alongside areas involved in conscious awareness and interpretation of those bodily signals. This is part of why emotions often feel both mental and deeply physical at the same time. A racing heart during anxiety or a warm, relaxed feeling during contentment aren't simply metaphors, but genuine, measurable, physiological responses closely intertwined with the brain's emotional processing. The brain is also home to a wide range of cognitive biases, subtle, systematic patterns in thinking that can lead us towards certain conclusions or decisions, often without our conscious awareness. Confirmation bias, for instance, describes our tendency to seek out and more readily accept information that confirms beliefs we already hold, while unconsciously discounting or overlooking evidence that contradicts them. The availability heuristic describes how we tend to judge the likelihood of an event based on how easily relevant examples come to mind, which is part of why people often overestimate the risk of dramatic but statistically rare events like plane crashes, while underestimating more common, less memorable risks. These biases aren't flaws in some broken system, but rather useful mental shortcuts that likely helped our ancestors make quick decisions with limited information, even though they can sometimes lead us astray in the more complex, information-rich world we live in today. Let's drift for a while through the brain's remarkable capacity for language, something so effortless for most people that its underlying complexity is easy to overlook. Language processing draws on a network of regions primarily located in the left hemisphere for most people, including an area called Broca's area, involved in producing coherent speech, and Wernicke's area, involved in comprehending language. Damage to Broca's area can result in speech that's slow and effortful, though meaning remains largely intact, while damage to Wernicke's area can produce fluent, effortless speech that nonetheless makes little coherent sense, a striking illustration of just how many distinct, specialized processes are quietly working together every time you form or understand a single sentence. The developing brain, too, follows a remarkable and carefully choreographed path from infancy onward. A newborn's brain already contains nearly all the neurons it will ever have, but those neurons are far from fully connected. Throughout early childhood, the brain forms new synaptic connections at an extraordinary rate, far more than it will ultimately need, followed later by a process called synaptic pruning, in which unused or less efficient connections are gradually eliminated, refining the brain's wiring based on which pathways are actually being used. This pruning process continues in various forms well into adolescence and early adulthood, which is part of why the teenage years are often marked by significant shifts in behavior, emotional regulation, and decision-making. As the brain's frontal lobe, responsible for impulse control and long-term planning, continues its slow, gradual process of maturing, the brain's relationship with the rest of the body is more intimate and more bidirectional than once commonly assumed. The gut, for instance, contains its own extensive network of neurons, sometimes informally referred to as the second brain, and ongoing research continues to reveal surprising connections between gut health and mood, cognition, and even certain mental health conditions, communicated in part through a long wandering nerve called the vagus nerve that runs directly between the brain and the digestive system. This connection helps explain why emotional states can so directly affect physical sensations in the stomach, and why, in turn, physical states within the gut can subtly influence mood and mental clarity. Consciousness itself, the simple, immediate experience of being aware, of having thoughts and sensations at all, remains one of the deepest and most persistently unresolved questions in all of neuroscience and philosophy alike. Despite enormous advances in mapping which brain regions become active during various tasks and experiences, researchers still don't have a complete, agreed-upon explanation for how the physical activity of neurons gives rise to the subjective experience of awareness itself, a puzzle sometimes referred to as the hard problem of consciousness. It's a strange and quietly humbling thought that even now, having explored so much about the brain structure and function tonight, the simple fact of your own present experience of listening to these words remains, in many ways, one of the last great unsolved mysteries. Let's linger a while longer on a few more of the brain's quieter, lesser-known corners before we begin winding things down for the night. The cerebellum, tucked beneath the back of the cerebrum, is a smaller but densely packed structure containing remarkably more than half of all the neurons in the entire brain, despite making up only about 10% of the brain's total volume. For a long time, the cerebellum was understood primarily as a center for coordinating movement and balance, and it does play an essential role in smooth, precise motor control, allowing you to walk, reach, and maintain balance without consciously thinking through each individual muscle movement. More recent research, though, has revealed that the cerebellum also contributes to a surprising range of cognitive functions, including attention, language processing, and emotional regulation, suggesting its role extends well beyond simple physical coordination. The brain is also protected by a remarkable, highly selective barrier called the blood-brain barrier, a specialized layer of tightly packed cells lining the brain's blood vessels that carefully regulates which substances are allowed to pass from the bloodstream into the brain's delicate tissue. This barrier helps shield the brain from potentially harmful toxins and pathogens circulating in the blood, while still allowing essential nutrients like glucose and oxygen to pass through freely. It's an elegant, quietly protective system, though it also presents a significant challenge for medicine, since many potentially helpful drugs are simply unable to cross this barrier, and researchers continue working on new methods to safely deliver treatments directly to brain tissue when needed. Handedness, the strong preference most people show for using one hand over the other, offers another small but interesting window into brain organization. Roughly 90% of people are right-handed, a preference linked to greater activity and specialization in the left hemisphere of the brain for tasks involving fine motor control. The remaining population is left-handed, or in a smaller number of cases ambidextrous, showing no strong preference either way. Despite decades of research, scientists still don't have a complete explanation for why this particular 90-10 split has remained so consistent across human history and across virtually every culture studied, with some evidence suggesting genetic factors play a role, though environmental and developmental influences appear to matter as well. The experience of pain, too, turns out to be far more complex and far more shaped by the brain itself than the simple idea of nerves detecting damage and reporting it upward might suggest. While pain signals do originate from sensory receptors throughout the body, detecting potentially harmful stimuli, the actual experience of pain, including its intensity and emotional weight, is significantly shaped by processing that occurs within the brain, involving regions related to attention, emotion, and past experience. This helps explain the well-documented placebo effect, in which a person can experience genuine, measurable pain relief from a treatment with no active physical ingredient simply because their brain, shaped by expectation and belief, alters its own processing of pain signals in response. Mental health, unsurprisingly, is deeply rooted in the brain's underlying biology, though it's shaped by a complex interplay of genetic, environmental, and experiential factors, rather than any single, isolated cause. Conditions like anxiety and depression involve measurable differences in brain activity and neurotransmitter regulation, though researchers continue working to fully untangle the intricate web of factors involved. What's become increasingly clear through decades of careful research is that the brain, much like the rest of the body, benefits significantly from consistent supportive habits, including adequate sleep, regular physical activity, social connection, and stress management, each of which has been shown through numerous studies to measurably support healthy brain function over time. The brain's remarkable capacity for empathy, the ability to understand and share in the feelings of another person, is thought to be supported in part by a group of cells known as mirror neurons, first identified in the 1990s through research initially conducted on macaque monkeys. These specialized neurons activate both when an individual performs a particular action themselves and, remarkably, when they simply observe someone else performing that same action, offering a possible neural basis for how we intuitively understand and relate to the actions and emotions of people around us. While the precise role of mirror neurons in human empathy remains an active and sometimes debated area of research, their discovery opened an entirely new avenue for understanding the deeply social, interconnected nature of human cognition. The way the brain perceives time also turns out to be far more flexible and subjective than our everyday experience might suggest. Time seems to move differently depending on your emotional state and level of engagement, famously passing quickly during moments of enjoyable absorption, sometimes called being in a state of flow, and seeming to stretch out slowly during moments of boredom, fear, or unfamiliarity. Researchers believe this altered perception relates to how densely the brain is encoding new information during a given experience. Unfamiliar or intensely emotional situations tend to generate a richer, more detailed set of memories which, when later recalled, can make the original experience feel as though it lasted considerably longer than it actually did. It's worth spending a little more time, too, on the brain's relationship with attention, since attention turns out to be a far more limited and selective resource than it often feels in the moment. Despite the constant flood of sensory information arriving from your eyes, ears, skin, and every other sense at once, the brain is only capable of consciously processing a small fraction of it at any given time, filtering out the vast majority through a process researchers call selective attention. This is part of what allows you to hold a conversation in a crowded, noisy room, tuning out dozens of other conversations happening simultaneously nearby, a phenomenon sometimes called the cocktail party effect. Interestingly, this filtering isn't absolute. If someone across a noisy room happens to say your name, it often cuts through the filtered background noise and captures your attention almost instantly. A quiet reminder that even information you're not consciously attending to is still being processed at some level in the background. The brain also relies heavily on a set of mental shortcuts and pattern recognition systems to make sense of an overwhelmingly complex world. And one particularly striking example of this is a phenomenon called pareidolia, the tendency to perceive familiar patterns, especially faces in random or ambiguous visual information. This is why people so often see faces in clouds, in the grain of wood, or in the front grille of a car, even when no actual face is present. Researchers believe this tendency likely developed because recognizing faces quickly and reliably, even under poor or ambiguous conditions, offered a significant evolutionary advantage, helping our ancestors rapidly distinguish friend from potential threat. A survival-oriented shortcut so deeply embedded that it continues firing even when there's no actual face to be found at all. Music, too, has a particularly deep and widespread effect on the brain, engaging far more regions simultaneously than most other everyday activities. Listening to music activates areas involved in auditory processing, memory, emotion, and even physical movement. And certain pieces of music can trigger the release of dopamine in anticipation of a particularly satisfying musical moment, similar to the anticipation and reward experienced with other pleasurable activities. This widespread engagement helps explain why music can be such a powerful trigger for memory, often summoning vivid, detailed recollections of a specific time or place far more effectively than most other sensory cues, a connection researchers believe is strengthened by music's simultaneous activation of both emotional and memory-related brain regions. The brain's handling of fear and stress deserves a slightly closer look as well, since it reveals just how deeply intertwined our mental and physical responses truly are. When the amygdala detects a potential threat, it triggers what's commonly known as the fight or flight response, prompting the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which rapidly increase heart rate, sharpen focus, and prepare the body for immediate action. This response evolved to handle short-term physical dangers, and it remains remarkably effective for that original purpose. However, in modern life, the same response can be triggered by more abstract, ongoing stressors like work deadlines or financial worry, which don't resolve as quickly as a physical threat would. And prolonged activation of this stress response has been linked through extensive research to a range of negative effects on both physical and mental health over time. Laughter, curiously enough, engages a surprisingly wide network of brain regions as well, involving areas associated with humor comprehension, motor control for the physical act of laughing itself, and reward-related regions that generate the pleasurable feeling associated with genuine amusement. Some researchers have also studied the phenomenon of contagious laughter, finding that simply hearing the sound of others laughing can activate similar brain regions in a listener even before they've fully understood what's actually funny, suggesting laughter carries its own kind of deeply social, almost automatic pull, quietly reinforcing bonds between people independent of the specific joke or moment that first triggered it. Finally, it's worth considering the brain's relationship with exercise, since physical movement turns out to have effects reaching far beyond the muscles being worked. Regular physical activity has been shown across numerous studies to promote the release of a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which supports the growth and survival of neurons and appears to play a meaningful role in learning and memory. Exercise has also been consistently linked to improved mood, partly through the release of endorphins, the body's natural mood-lifting chemicals, and partly through more gradual, longer-term changes in brain structure and function that accumulate with consistent physical activity over time. One more quiet reminder of just how deeply connected the brain remains to the rest of the body it calls home. Our understanding of the brain owes an enormous amount to the development of modern brain imaging technology, which has transformed neuroscience from a field once limited largely to studying the effects of injury or disease into one capable of observing a healthy living brain in action. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, commonly known as fMRI, works by detecting subtle changes in blood flow within the brain, since more active regions require more oxygen-rich blood, allowing researchers to build detailed maps of which areas become active during specific tasks, from solving a math problem to recalling a cherished memory. Electroencephalography, or EEG, takes a different approach entirely, measuring the brain's electrical activity directly through sensors placed on the scalp, offering extremely precise timing information, down to fractions of a second, though with less detail about exactly where in the brain that activity originated. Together, these and other imaging techniques have allowed researchers to move from theorizing about brain function based on injury alone to directly observing the brain's remarkable moment-to-moment activity in real time. Some of the earliest and most influential insights into brain function actually came from studying rare cases where the two hemispheres of the brain had been surgically separated, a procedure sometimes performed in the past to treat severe, otherwise untreatable epilepsy by cutting the corpus callosum connecting the two hemispheres. Research conducted on these so-called split brain patients revealed fascinating insights into hemispheric specialization, showing that each hemisphere, when isolated from the other, could process certain types of information somewhat independently. In carefully controlled experiments, researchers found that information presented only to the right hemisphere, which generally lacks strong language capabilities in most people, could influence a person's behavior or emotional response without them being able to consciously explain why, offering a striking demonstration of just how much of the brain's processing occurs outside of conscious verbal awareness. As the brain ages, it undergoes a range of gradual changes, though the popular notion of steep, inevitable cognitive decline turns out to be considerably more nuanced than often assumed. While certain cognitive functions, particularly The speed of processing new information do tend to gradually slow with age. Other abilities, including accumulated knowledge, vocabulary, and certain forms of practical wisdom built from decades of experience, often remain stable or can even continue improving well into later life. Researchers have also found that continued mental engagement through activities like learning new skills, maintaining social connections, and regular physical exercise appears to support a healthier brain aging, reinforcing once again the brain's remarkable lifelong capacity for adaptation, provided it continues to be given reasons and opportunities to adapt. Decision-making itself, something we engage in constantly throughout every waking day, turns out to rely on a delicate balance between fast, intuitive processing and slower, more deliberate reasoning, a distinction researchers often describe using the framework of two separate systems of thought. The first system operates quickly and automatically, drawing on pattern recognition and past experience to generate rapid judgments with little conscious effort, useful for the countless small decisions we make throughout an ordinary day, like judging the emotional tone of someone's voice or navigating a familiar walk home. The second system is slower, more effortful, and more consciously controlled, engaged when we work through a complex math problem or carefully weigh a difficult, unfamiliar decision. Both systems play essential complementary roles, and much of the ongoing research into decision-making focuses on understanding when and why the brain relies more heavily on one system over the other, and what happens when that quick, intuitive first system leads us astray. It's worth pausing too on just how much interpretive work the brain quietly performs when it comes to the senses, since what we experience as direct, effortless perception is actually the end result of an enormous amount of behind-the-scenes processing. Vision offers a particularly striking example. The raw image projected onto the retina at the back of each eye is actually upside down and contains a significant blind spot where the optic nerve connects. Yet the brain seamlessly corrects the orientation and fills in the missing information so smoothly that most people go their entire lives without ever noticing either effect. Similarly, the brain constantly integrates information from multiple senses at once, sometimes prioritizing one sense over another, depending on context. A phenomenon demonstrated by the well-known McGurk effect, in which watching a video of someone mouthing one syllable while hearing a different syllable spoken aloud causes most viewers to perceive an entirely third, blended sound, a small but vivid illustration of just how actively the brain constructs, rather than simply records, the reality we experience. Touch and proprioception, our sense of where our own body is positioned in space even without looking, rely on a similarly sophisticated internal mapping system. The brain maintains a continuously updated, dynamic representation of the body, sometimes called the body schema, allowing you to reach out and touch your nose with your eyes closed, or navigate down a dark hallway without consciously tracking the position of every limb. This same system is responsible for the curious phenomenon experienced by some individuals who have lost a limb, known as phantom limb sensation, in which the brain, still maintaining its prior map of the body, continues generating sensations, sometimes including pain, that seem to originate from a limb that is no longer physically present. A striking reminder that so much of bodily sensation is ultimately constructed and maintained within the brain itself, rather than simply relayed passively from the body. The brain's deeply social nature deserves one more quiet mention before we close tonight, since so much of human cognition appears to have developed specifically to help us navigate complex social relationships. Researchers have proposed that the unusually large size of the human brain relative to body size compared to most other animals may be explained in significant part by what's sometimes called the social brain hypothesis. The idea that keeping track of an extensive shifting web of relationships, alliances, and social obligations within early human communities placed substantial cognitive demands on our ancestors, gradually favoring the evolution of larger, more socially sophisticated brains over many thousands of generations. Even now, a significant portion of everyday brain activity remains devoted to social processing, interpreting facial expressions, tracking the beliefs and intentions of others, and quietly, continuously updating our understanding of the people around us. A subtle, constant undercurrent running beneath nearly every waking interaction. It's worth taking one last unhurried look backward too, at how recently our understanding of the brain has actually developed, since for most of human history, the brain's true role was far from obvious. Ancient Egyptian embalmers preparing bodies for the afterlife carefully preserved the heart, believing it to be the seat of thought and emotion, while routinely discarding the brain entirely during the mummification process, considering it largely unimportant. It was the ancient Greek physician Hippocrates who first proposed around the 5th century before the Common Era that the brain, rather than the heart, was the true source of sensation, thought, and emotion, an idea that took many centuries to become widely accepted. Even as recently as the 19th century, much of what was understood about brain function came from careful observation of patients who had suffered specific injuries, most famously the case of Phineas Gage, a railroad worker who survived a severe injury to his frontal lobe in 1848, after which his personality and behavior changed so significantly that his case became one of the foundational examples demonstrating that different regions of the brain are responsible for distinctly different aspects of who we are. As we drift toward the end of tonight's journey, let's take one last slow pass back through everything we've traveled through together. We began with the sheer scale of the brain itself, 86 billion neurons and 100 trillion connections, all humming along on borrowed electricity and chemistry. We wandered through its major regions, the frontal lobe planning and deciding, the hippocampus quietly filing away memories, the amygdala keeping watch for danger, even while you rest. We drifted through the strange active labor of sleep and dreaming, through the surprisingly reconstructive nature of memory, and through the quiet ongoing plasticity that lets the brain reshape itself throughout an entire lifetime. We considered the subtle biases that shape how we think without our noticing, the intimate two-way conversation between brain and gut, and the deep, still unresolved mystery of consciousness itself, sitting quietly underneath every other fact we explored tonight. We paused with the cerebellum, doing far more than simple balance, and with the blood-brain barrier, quietly guarding the delicate tissue that makes all of this possible in the first place. And so tonight, we leave the human brain exactly where it has always been, settled quietly behind your eyes, continuing its patient, tireless work even now, sorting through tonight's thoughts, easing toward these slower rhythms of sleep, doing what it has done every single night of your life, without ever once asking for thanks or rest of its own. There's something quietly comforting in that kind of constancy, in knowing that this remarkable 3-pound organ, capable of holding entire lifetimes of memory, language, and feeling, is right now doing exactly what it needs to do to carry you gently towards sleep. The same way it has carried you through every night before this one. You've drifted tonight through neurons firing faster than thought, through memories being quietly filed away, through dreams still not fully understood, and through the deep, unanswered mystery of your own awareness. You've traveled further tonight than any of us ever could in waking life, and you've done it without ever leaving the comfort of where you're resting right now. Let it hold you now, the quiet, steady hum of your own mind, settling gently into the dark, asking nothing of you except to rest. Sleep well, and I'll see you next time for another 100 facts drifting softly into sleep.